So now I spoke about getting the things automated within the sprints so that you can actually start building up your regression suite. Now let us first focus on the traditional approach that most of us practice. Okay, the usual mindset of a tester is I cannot automate unless the UI is stable, or unless I get those screens where I can actually test. So the very method that a QA follows is write the test cases, wait for the developers to deliver, manually verify your acceptance test cases, and then probably go and start automating. But actually this creates a backlog of automation tasks. So let us pictorially see this. So I am in release 1. Okay, I have just begun my sprint 1. So the QA is writing the test cases. The developers may deliver probably at the end of the sprint 1. The tester may execute the test cases manually. He has not yet started with automation. And I begin sprint 2. So at this point in time, there is no automation that has been done as of now. Now, once I get my screen, the tester starts automating the features of sprint 1. Similar things happen for the corresponding sprints. And if you see this, I have ended my sprint 4, but still I am automating sprint 3. So this is nothing but a backlog of automation tasks, and as the release ends and a new release begins, this backlog would keep on increasing. I am definitely building my regression suite, but this regression suite is not complete and not sufficient for me to execute it every sprint. So probably at the end of sprint 2, I am ready to execute automated cases of sprint 1. This is my hardening phase. I have still not automated my entire suite. I have started beginning my release 2, but still I have automation tasks which are not yet being automated. And probably in release 2, I start automating some of the cases of probably even sprint 4 and sprint 5 as well. So this is a traditional approach. Now how to get back to what we want to achieve, and that is in sprint automation. Let us see this. Okay, so I have my sprints. Okay, I have sprint 1. I'll automate all my features in sprint 1. Similarly for sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4 and 5. If I do this, what are the benefits that I get? So as soon as my sprint 1 finishes, I have automated all the features that I can automate for the sprint 1. That means I have some suite that is already created and which I can run even at the start of the sprint 2. Similarly for sprint 2, I have automated everything. So as my sprints are getting over, my regression suite is also being built up. And every sprint, I am running my entire regression suite. So I can start running the entire thing right from sprint 2. So even as soon as I finish my sprint 5, which is nothing but your code cutoff probably for that particular release, I have my entire suite, new features automated and ready to be used as a regression suite for the next release as well as for the current release as well. Now what are the benefits of this? The benefits of this are, during the hardening sprint, when I am supposed to run all my regression suite, all the test cases of current release, since I have automated, I save a lot of time basically while executing my test cases. So the execution becomes faster, time to market can be faster, and eventually you can achieve a state where even this hardening can be pulled off and the things can go into production directly. So the time to market increases tremendously by achieving automation in sprint. I'll also explain how it can be done through the framework that I'll probably showcase. Okay, this is a particular framework which has been developed using Selenium and Cucumber JVM, but this framework is a very generic framework and can be used irrespective of what tool you are using. So we have something called as a core driver. The core driver is nothing but it can be, in this case, it is a build.xml file where you can actually define what exactly you want to run as a part of your automation suite. So the core driver will have a definition of which features probably to run. Okay. So it has a feature is nothing but your user story. It can directly map to a user story. So for each user story you can have a single feature file, or multiple stories can be there in a single feature file as well. So every feature, so after a core driver there is another driver which is a feature driver which will tell which exactly features you want to execute. So when you are defining a feature file, probably you can also define the priority items in those feature files, and depending upon the priority items you can define which priority items you want to execute. So hence there are two levels of drivers, one which will tell you what exactly, or on a high level, which feature files you want to run, and the other which features within the feature files you want to run. So this feature file is nothing but your test cases that you write. So there is no redundancy of test case writing activity. So whatever you write in this particular feature file serves as your test case. Every feature file will have an underlying fixture file which is nothing but a test script developed in Selenium. Okay, so every feature file will have a corresponding fixture file. There are certain library files that probably you can create. So all common code that you want to have within your system can go as a part of your library file. So that as much as common code that you can write, it will give you a high reusability, and as you start building up this library files, you will eventually find that the work or the script that you have to write out here is minimal, and it will actually help you to create those automation scripts right within the sprint. So initially you may have, you may find it a little difficult to achieve instant automation because there is a lot of code that is required, but eventually as this file starts building up, you will start achieving the same. The other aspect is your object repository. By keeping an object repository away from your actual code will enable you to start scripting your automation code right in the beginning before actually the developers gives you the screen. Now any automation engineer, if we ask, the main requirement for any automation engineer is object recognition. So when a screen is obtained, basically he normally goes, does a record and playback, probably identifies how an object is being identified by the automation tool, and then inputs that object within the script. But by segregating this away from your code, all that you need to do before the screen is available is write the entire automation code, and the only dependency that you have from the developers to render the screen would be the objects. And if we have certain coding practices put in place, such as every object can be defined. So there is a standard way to define an object. For example, it's a button. So I'll start, it's a save button. So I might put an ID for it saying that btn_save, which will identify my button. So if that standard is also set in place, then probably the testers need not be dependent on the developers to give the screens before they can automate. So if any automation engineer is well versed with the automation tool that is being used, then he should be able to write at least 80 to 85% of the code before the screen is delivered. And this is the very reason that, or this is the only way that you can actually implement automation within the scripts. And the reports are generated by the Cucumber JVM, and this particular framework is such that it is hooked to continuous integration, so that whenever there are builds which are getting deployed onto the test environment through continuous integration, once they get deployed, it will automatically start your smoke test, which is again in a very similar manner. So when you are defining a feature file, you can also tag certain scenarios within those feature files as @smoke, which with this functionality is probably provided by Cucumber JVM. So you can actually tag them as @smoke and then just run the smoke test cases. Similarly, you can also execute acceptance test cases via CI builds, and you will get, all the stakeholders can get a report after the execution of acceptance test.